Hi, this is Jess Ponce, and welcome to the A Factor podcast. I am an author, a communications coach, and also the creator of the A Factor, which is a methodology that I use to help clients really shine when they need it most. And what we're going to do today is we are going to talk to an entrepreneur about her brand. And my hope is that during this coaching session, you can identify some things that might even help you as you're pursuing to enhance your brand and your business. Now, Nellie is a colleague that I met a while ago, and she reached out to me because she is in the process of distributing or getting a book out there into the world. And that's always a daunting experience. I don't know much more than that, but I thought we could touch base today to find out how she plans to get this out there and who her audience happens to be. So welcome, Nellie.
Thank you so much for having me, Jess. It's great to see you.
Oh, it's great to see you. So Nellie, give us a little background. Tell us about what you do and what you're hoping to do.
Well, I have been an actor since I was 14. Stopped for a while to study Chinese and business and go to college and try to have a real job, but I ended up right back in it. And it's interesting because there was a phase when I became a writer when I was pregnant with my son. And he's 16 now. So I couldn't find acting work. I was actually working on a pilot, and they were like, oh, your waist is a little bigger when I came in to shoot. And I got like a stack of papers in my trailer right after that, you know, signing away everything, basically saying you're a liability. And I remember thinking, I can't work anymore. I'm going to have to start writing, which to me, you know, turned out to be a great joy for me. And I honestly, the first thing I did was try stand-up, which I was terrible at. And then I ended up realizing that I was more of a storyteller. And I translated that stand-up into a one-woman show called Denying Park Avenue about my upbringing in New York City that I then optioned to HBO. So that kind of got me on the writing path, and then acting work kept coming. So I got sidetracked with that for a while.
And so this book that you have coming out, tell us about it.
Okay, so I have had so many crazy experiences in Hollywood, as have many of us. So it's called 50 Moments, Faking It, Making It, and Taking It in Hollywood as a Working Actor. Because I don't think people really understand the plot of the working actor, right? I mean, you realize, Jess, that like, you know, in the Screen Actors Guild, only like 5% of people work and earn a living. So, you know, being a working actor is a thing, right? And I have had the pleasure of working with so many huge people in the business, but have also had the sadness or whatever, the challenge of realizing, oh, I'm not them, but I'm working with them and I'm locked up with them in a hotel for 6 months. And how do I find my place? And at the end of the day, what I really feel the book is about, and this is my question to you, is it's really not just about Hollywood. It's about being an underdog. It's about being somebody in a situation, and we are all underdogs in some aspect of our lives, whether it's work, whether it's just in your family, et cetera. And I think that's really the message I wanted to get across to people, were these stories that I had to tell that are about how do you handle yourself in these situations.
And so who do you think that speaks to in terms of an audience?
Well, I think it speaks to everybody, to be honest. And I mean, that's a question for you, obviously. You know, to me, it speaks to everyone because we're all underdogs, right? Like, and I want that to be the message. Like, I wanted people to read the stories and laugh out loud and say, oh my God, I embarrassed myself that way too. Or, oh God, I always felt less than. Or this has been such a learning experience for me and I got so much out of it. That's what each chapter is a story. So it's 50 stories.
Great. So did you have this idea in mind as you wrote the book?
I did.
Okay.
Really, it's very clear to me that that's what I wanted to do.
Great. So while the experience may be in a particular industry, the things that happened and the feelings and the circumstances surround it might be more universal.
Yes.
Great. Now, are there factors that play into this? Your own background, being a woman of a certain age, being younger, do any of those demographic types of things play into the book or the stories?
Well, I want to say no, like off the bat, simply because they happened over a period of years. So I
Mhm.
know what you're saying, but
Mhm.
some of these stories happened when I was in my 20s, like working for Donald Trump.
Mhm.
And others happened in my 40s, stuffing up Martin Scorsese's private toilet while waiting for a meeting for him. So there have been all kinds of different, at different ages when these things have happened to me.
So are they dated or noted in the book?
Uh, yes, by virtue of the fact that I start each chapter out like a screenplay,
Mhm.
and I give it a title from a famous movie or TV show, and then I
Okay.
do the setting. So I say the setting just like, when we read screenplays, the setting of where I was, because to me, I don't know, I think people like hearing that. And I've always been a person who remember, like I'll drive by, like I did yesterday, I'll drive by a spot and I'll be like, oh my God, I had an argument with somebody on the phone there. Or like, I literally
Yes,
remember.
we all have those moments, especially as
Yes,
going by places that we worked or places
yes.
we lived or currently live.
Yeah, so I think it gives people the setting for them to sort of put themselves in it and put themselves in the story.
Great. So the setting, I think, is really important, and I'm asking about context because I think context is one of the ways that we can relate or have people relate to our stories. So, for example, I was early in my career. I had a boss who was one of those people that you constantly had to prove yourself to, and regardless of what I did, she was that person that I couldn't do enough. And at first I hated her, but in the end, I realized that she taught me so much.
Yes.
Now, take the characters out, give them names, make it on a set or different things, but you can also make that, at a factory or an accounting office or different places like that.
Hmm.
So I think what's going to be important as you begin marketing this book or talking about this book, this, excuse me, or talking about this book is this idea of in what ways is it universal?
Hmm.
And there are a couple of things that I think make things universal to all of us. So what you want to do is to make sure that any of the lessons or the things that you talk about in the book apply to everybody.
Hmm.
And you do that by universally connecting to what it means to be in that situation. That's why I was asking about age or sex or upbringing, because we all look at the world differently when we're
Hmm.
25 than when we're 35 or
That's so true.
maybe maybe even older. And based on your background, such as, you mentioned growing up in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Well, you might be growing up in Kentucky, but there's a similarity in terms of an experience that you feel. And I think one of the best ways to do that is to talk about the human experience, to be relatable, and to talk about emotion and thoughts.
Hmm. That's great advice. And I did try to do that. The way I tried to do it was I write dialogue in my chapters. I want to
Mhm.
hear what you think about this. So I write dialogue so that you can see, like I told you about the stuffing up Martin Scorsese as a private toilet, like the whole idea that like I'm waiting for him in the office. I'm a nervous wreck. I remember that he has a private restroom. I don't want to walk past everybody else in the office. So then, I mean, the toilet overflows all over the place, and I have to go to the assistant and tell her, and she's on the phone. And so the dialogue is like, I'm like, excuse me, it's really, they're like, no, it's fine, whatever. I'm like, it's not fine. It's actually not fine. And I feel like that kind of makes it more, it puts people in the moment. I don't know how you feel about that, but I felt like it put people in the moment of, oh God, I've done that. Because it's kind of true. We've all done that, whether you're on a date or something and you're like, you've just met somebody. I mean, there's nothing more embarrassing than that.
And I think what is great is that people will want to read it because there's the celebrity aspect of it.
Hmm.
I also think when you start marketing or promote it, you want to be able to make it applicable to everyone
Hmm.
so that it's not just tales of celebrities and your experience of it. Because while you are giving people an inside perspective, what you said at the beginning of our conversation is that you want to tell the underdog story and
Hmm.
you want people to be able to relate to that. So for example, if someone is interviewing you and say, okay, well, tell me about an experience you had where you felt really embarrassed or you were in a tough situation, then you would tell this story, but then you would say exactly what you just told me. And that is, we've all been there. We can be on a date, we can be on these things, because what you want to do, especially if you're doing something on social media, in a interview that's going to be print, or even an interview that is going to be broadcast or shown online, is you don't want people guessing. You want to kind of feed it to them.
Okay. That's a very good point. So posting on social media, you're saying I should say, literally, we have all been there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because what you're opening up is yourself. You're being self-revealing, because that's what this whole book is about. But you want people to know that it's self-revealing, that it's not just this book where you're recounting history and an expose on your experience. It's more about your point of view and how other people might be able to relate to that.
Well, I have a question for you. So I'm finalizing the illustrations, and the idea I came up with. So I do a accompanying podcast, and I interview celebrities about their experiences. Jill Bandermer's helping me cast, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
And so for my podcast, the picture that I use for everything, my logo, is a picture of my foot in a Louboutin shoe on my Hollywood Walk of Fame star, which I don't have, obviously. But and then you see on the bottom of my heel a piece of toilet paper.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea was, so you look one way, but you're not. And so for the book cover and the back, what I did was I have the illustrator doing this picture of me. It's like a caricature on the front cover, which is all, dolled up on the red carpet. And then on the back cover, you see like hair extensions and my skirt's up and there's toilet paper. The whole idea of the contrast of this is how it looks, here's how it really is behind the scenes. What do you think of that?
I think it's great, because what that does is it tells a story right off the bat, so that there's the public you, and then there's the other you that had to get to the place where you could show off, who you are. And I think it also says that it requires work, and that on many levels, it doesn't happen naturally, in terms of you don't just wake up and suddenly, you step into a gown. Even the most gorgeous and charming, debonair actors, whether they're male or female, don't wake up that beautiful. I not that I've ever woken up with any of them, but I just know from being behind the scenes.
You're so right, though, because I do think there's this thing in Hollywood that, like, Hollywood is just, it's not about Hollywood. Hollywood is a way that we watch movies, we watch TV shows. It's how we sort of inform our own lives and how we reflect our lives. And that's really all it is. It's an illusion, but it's like a playground for all of us to see who we are. And I always found it fascinating, for example, like the 50 most beautiful people, in People magazine. And I was like, they all had good publicists. I mean, I hate to say this, but you could be the ugliest girl in Hollywood and be on that list if you had a great publicist. And, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I'm not trying to be a jerk. What I'm trying to say is, what is beauty? And why do these magazines or these pictures define what our standard should be?
Well, medium defines what beauty is. And since we are all content creators these days, we all have a social media account, we're all putting videos, we're all putting content out there. We are telling people what's beautiful. And so I think it comes down to, what is your voice and how are you speaking to other people, where it lands with them and they can hear you. I have a question for you, a couple of questions. I'll start with the first one. If you were to close your eyes and envision somebody who's going to Amazon, what are the search words that they're going to look to find your book?
Well, Hollywood. Because
Okay,
people
so
do
Hollywood.
look for that.
That's a good one.
Underdog.
Underdog.
And faking it.
Faking it.
Okay. I
Okay.
think that's an important one because it's in the title. And I think that's really important because I feel like all of us feel like, whether it's true or not, that we kind of fake some things in our lives, right? Whether it's fake it till you make it, or, you're sort of hiding behind something. I think we all feel we have to fake it, right? To say the right words, to do the right thing, and who's determining that, right? It's hard these days to
Mhm.
really be genuine.
And I think I asked you this question because I wanted you to describe what the brand of the book is, so
Mhm.
that it's Hollywood, it's about underdogs, and it's about faking it. So using that as your barometer, that will help you in terms of getting it out there and approaching your audience.
Okay.
Who do you imagine if they were going into Barnes and Noble? So that right there cuts out a certain demographic of age. But imagine someone's going into a bookstore. Who is the person reaching for your book?
I actually, first of all, I don't think of myself as my age. I can remember watching my mother in the mirror getting ready in the morning and putting her makeup on. And she sarcastically turned to me and was like, I see you looking at my face. This is not what I see when I look in the mirror. I see myself at 25. Okay. So which always made me laugh because she knew I was looking at her like, look at those wrinkles. That makeup looks bad. Just like all little girls look at critically at their moms and will I look like that someday? Is that bad? Am I going to age? So to me, I feel like it will encompass a young audience, but also a young at heart audience. So I just don't, I mean, a lot of the celebrities I have who are coming on the podcast are in my age range or older. And I thought about that, Jess, and I thought, should I be wary of that? And then I thought, no, I picked them all for their stories, right? Like I picked them for who they are inside. And I think, look, I said this to Jill and you'll laugh at this. Like, I'm a little, like, I don't like being defined by my age. And a lot of people in my circle in Dallas, where I live now, constantly ask my age. They constantly ask my age. And I'm not comfortable really saying it, not just because I don't define myself by my age, right? I define myself by who I am in the moment and what I'm doing today. And so my retort when they ask that is, how much do you weigh? Because nobody wants to answer that question. And I'm like, I think I got my message across. So in a roundabout way, I'm answering your question. I think my audience is anybody who can go back and look at themselves at different periods of their life. And usually it's when you're younger that you make a lot of your dumb mistakes, to be honest, and say, oh God, I think I did that too.
Okay, so, but, and thank you for that. So describe who this person is. So
Okay.
let's just say a person of a certain age. We're not even going to say what age, but what is he or she like?
Okay, so let's picture a 35-year-old woman who's different, like dressed funky, doesn't listen to, oh, skinny jeans are out of style, but is wearing whatever the hell she wants, is an original, and walks into the bookstore and is looking for something like a journey while she goes on a trip. Like, I'm going on a trip. Somebody who travels and is like, I can't wait to open this book and read it in one sitting on the plane.
Great. So that was an excellent description. So that is the person that might be your first primary audience.
Mm-hmm.
And here's what happens is we want to be able to apply to everybody so that we begin diluting, we begin getting into these conversations like you were just talking right now about age, and it could be about money, it could be about sex, it could be all of these different things. And I think that if we have a target audience, it doesn't mean that we're going to lose everybody else, but it means that we speak to a primary message, and then there will be ancillary people who will glom onto that.
Okay, that's one of the most genius things I've ever heard anybody say. So thank you. It really is. It really is. Like, you really made me think, oh, I have to describe this person.
Well, yes, because the person you described was very rich. So she's somebody who is probably a professional who's looking to get away from the normal stuff. She's got a nice little bit of edge to her, but you can also assume that she is middle class, has the availability to go on a trip. So she wants to know some stories, and she might want to be inspired, and she definitely wants to be entertained.
Mm-hmm.
And so by looking at that person, we say, okay, that's who I'm speaking to. So often we again want to think that we can speak to everybody. And the truth of the matter is, who we are, not everybody's going to like us. Likewise, when we write a book or do something like that, not everybody's going to like it.
Yeah.
And so what I don't want for you is to water down or to chase after the people that aren't necessarily going to be your target. That said, they will find you. Let them find you. Let the person, the 35-year-old woman who went on this trip, who has this book, talk about to her husband about it. Let her kids pick it up, like you looking at your mom, and say, hey, why are you laughing? It will grow, but it will grow if it has a strong core.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the people who are going to hear you first, and everybody else will follow.
Okay.
So
you're really putting me on a path to know, like, it's so important. You're correct. It's so important to know what your goal is, and to say it out loud. So you just made me say it out loud.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much. And I just want to break this down for everybody listening, because I think this is really important. That when you are looking at your business or your creative pursuit, that could be a book like Nellie was describing. It could be a job that you have or a business that you want to start. Think about the people who need to hear what you have to say. Think about them in detail. And in this instance, profiling is actually good. Think of an age, a demographic, a sex, a point of view. Now, I know for some people, they don't want to go into that detail. Well, start with the point of view and let the other parts follow. So by point of view, it could be somebody who's looking for a relief, somebody who is looking to better their lives and they constantly seek new forms of education. Somebody who likes to get all of their information online but doesn't like to talk out loud. If you start with that, then you can begin to build who this person is. But don't be afraid to target, because when you target, you will speak to the person who needs to hear what you have to say, and the rest will follow. So Nellie, thank you very, very much for that. I appreciate it and wish you the best of luck on your book. What's your book title again?
It's called 50 Moments, Faking It, Making It, and Taking It in Hollywood as a Working Actor.
I love that. And if we want to know more about you, what's your website?
It's called Nellie'sBlog.com, NellieSblog.com.
Great.
And on Facebook and Twitter and Insta and everything else, I am just Nellie Sciutto. Exactly.
Spell that for us so we all get it.
Nellie, and last name, it's like prosciutto, SCIUTTO.
Great. Well, thank you.
Thank you for having me. Such great advice.
You are welcome. And to everyone out there, if you like this video, press like. And if you want to have more videos like this, please follow me on YouTube. And if you're listening to this on a podcast, I am so grateful. Remember that there are places where you can find more information about me. Go to JP3 Global Media, and that's where you can find all of it. So thank you, and I'll see you next time.